Alma was a hard-working seamstress in Accra, stitching clothes from dawn till night just to make ends meet. She lived a simple life, but her heart was full of dreams. Then came Kojo, smooth-talking, warm smile, eyes full of fire. He told her stories about starting his own business, about building a future together. Alma, who had never known such affection, fell hard. She gave him her heart without hesitation. Soon, they married in a small, joyful ceremony. Everyone in the neighborhood cheered for them. They were that couple, the ones who looked at each other like the whole world disappeared. With whatever little savings they had, they built a modest home in a quiet part of the city. It wasn't big, but it was theirs, filled with laughter, music, and late-night cooking. When Alma found out she was pregnant, she cried tears of joy. She held the tiny test in her hands and whispered to herself, "This is the life I prayed for." Kojo lifted her off the ground when she told him. They danced right there in the kitchen. For the first time, Alma felt safe, loved, complete. She would hum lullabies while sewing, dreaming of baby names, decorating the tiny second room for the little one on the way. It felt like nothing could go wrong. But dreams sometimes carry shadows, and Alma's perfect world was about to crack in a way she never saw coming. The man she trusted would soon become a stranger. Everything started to change after a few weeks. Alma noticed it first in the little things. Kojo stopped coming home early. He stopped asking how she was feeling. No more gentle touches on her belly. No more talk about baby names or paint color for the nursery. He would sit quietly at dinner, eyes glued to his phone, barely saying a word. When she asked if something was wrong, he would shrug or walk away. Alma tried to hold on. Maybe he was stressed. Maybe work was hard. She cooked his favorite meals, rubbed his shoulders at night, smiled even when her back ached from the pregnancy. But Kojo's warmth had turned to ice. Then came the night that shattered her. They were sitting in silence, the television playing in the background. Alma reached for his hand and softly said, "The baby kicked today." Kojo didn't even look at her. He stood up, walked to the window, and, after a long pause, turned around with a cold expression. "Abort it," he said flatly. "I'm not ready for this." Alma blinked, thinking she'd heard wrong. Her heart dropped in her stomach. What did you say?" She whispered. "I said get rid of it." He repeated, louder this time. "I didn't sign up for this. I'm not ready to be a father." Alma couldn't breathe. The room felt like it was spinning, her hands wrapped around her belly protectively, as if shielding the life inside from his words. She didn't scream. She didn't argue. Her voice disappeared. Tears streamed down her face in silence as Kojo grabbed his keys and stormed out the door like he had just talked about the weather. The house that once held laughter now felt like a tomb. Alma sat alone for hours, staring at the front door, hoping he would come back, say it was a mistake, say he didn't mean it, but he never returned that night. And in that stillness, Alma realized this wasn't just a bad mood. This was something deeper, something darker. The man she loved had changed, and her heart was breaking into pieces she didn't know how to put back together. Alma tried to hold herself together after that awful night, but something inside her had cracked. Kojo still came home sometimes, but he barely spoke. He stayed out late, always with some excuse, meetings, friends, traffic. But Alma could feel it. Something wasn't right. Then the whispers started. At the market where Alma bought fabric, women talked in low voices when they saw her. One of them, an older trader who had always liked Alma, pulled her aside one morning. "I'm sorry, my dear," she said gently, "but people have seen your husband with another woman." "Almas chist tiktinit." "Oh?" she asked, barely above a whisper. "Her name is Adwoa," the woman said. "New in town, dresses like a movie star. She drives a red car. Always seen laughing with your Kojo at cafes and hotels." Alma felt her knees weaken, but she forced a smile and walked away, heart pounding in her chest. She didn't want to believe it. Kojo wouldn't do that. He couldn't. But once the seed was planted, the signs became too clear to ignore. She started noticing strange things, receipts hidden in his pockets from expensive places she had never been. New cologne he never used to wear. He would leave the room to take calls, speaking in low tones, smiling in a way he hadn't smiled at her in months. One night, Alma stayed up past midnight. When Kojo finally walked in, he smelled of strong perfume, not hers. She looked at him, her belly now round and heavy, and asked, "Where have you been?" He didn't even lie, just shrugged. Out. Alma didn't sleep that night. Her heart felt like it was being torn in two. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw a woman in red, laughing with her husband, living a life that should have been hers. And deep down, she knew it. Kojo wasn't just pulling away. He had already left, emotionally, mentally, maybe even physically. She was carrying his child, but his love now belonged to someone else. The dream she once sewed into every stitch now felt like unraveling threads. Alma couldn't sleep. The whispers, the receipts, the perfume, it all kept spinning in her head. She needed to know the truth, not just pieces. Her heart already suspected, but her soul needed proof. So when Kojo said he was going on a business trip to Cape Coast that weekend, something inside her clicked. She told her cousin Nana she needed help. Quietly, carefully, she packed a small bag and followed him. Alma didn't have a car, so Nana's friend drove her. They kept a safe distance, following the taxi Kojo had taken from the station. Her hands trembled the whole way. She told herself maybe he really was working. Maybe this was all in her head. But when they arrived, Alma's breath caught in her throat. There was a white villa with tall gates and a garden full of flowers. Not a hotel, but a home. Kojo stepped out of the taxi, smiling. Waiting at the door was a woman dressed in a silk robe, her makeup perfect, her nails long, and painted IT was Adwoa. Alma watched from a distance, hidden behind a hedge. Her stomach turned as she saw them hug and kiss. He picked her up playfully like he used to do with Alma. They laughed, touched, held hands like they had the whole world to themselves. She wanted to scream, "Oh, run." But she forced herself to stay. When they went inside, Alma crept closer, her heart beating so loudly she could hear it in her ears. Through the window, she saw photos on the walls. Kojo and Adwoa at the beach, at fancy dinners, holding champagne. She saw his clothes in the wardrobe, his slippers by the bed. This wasn't a fling, this was a second life. A life he built while Alma was sewing, saving, carrying his child. Tears blurred her vision as she stumbled back, clutching her belly. The man she had loved, trusted, married, he had been lying for months, maybe longer. Her whole marriage, her dreams, her plans were a lie. As they laughed behind those walls, Alma walked away, each step heavier than the last. But in that pain, something inside her began to harden, not bitterness, not yet. Alma didn't sleep for 2 nights after Cape Coast. Her heart was broken, but her spirit was burning. She couldn't pretend anymore. She couldn't carry the weight of the truth in silence. So one evening, when Kojo finally came home, she stood by the door, waiting. He walked in like nothing was wrong, whistling, tossing his keys on the table. Alma didn't even blink. "I know about Cape Coast," she said, her voice calm but trembling underneath. Kojo froze for a second, then turned slowly, his face hardening. "What are you talking about?" "I saw you," she whispered. "I followed you. I saw the house. I saw her." For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Kojo did something Alma never expected. He laughed. A cold, cruel laugh that made her knees weak. "So what?" he said, still smirking. "You followed me like some desperate woman?" Pathetic. Alma's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't look away. "Why, Kojo? Why did you do this to me? To us?" He stepped closer, his tone sharper now. "Because you were just convenient, Alma. You cooked. You cleaned. You made things easy. That's it." She clutched her belly. "I'm carrying your child." Kojo looked at her stomach and scoffed. "That baby? I don't even want it. Adwoa is the real woman in my life now. Not you." Alma felt her heart shatter in that moment. Not crack, shatter. Into 1,000 sharp pieces. She took a step back, shaking her head, unable to understand how the man she once loved had turned into a stranger. "After everything, you really feel nothing for me?" "Nothing," he said coldly. "You're holding me back. This whole thing," he waved his hand around the house, "was never my dream." Then, without warning, he grabbed her suitcase from the corner. "Pack your things," he snapped. "I want you out. Now." Alma stared at him, frozen in place. "I said get out, Alma," he shouted. With tears rolling down her cheeks, she walked slowly to the room, gathered her clothes, her sewing tools, and a few baby items. Her hands shook the whole time. Amma stood outside the gate with her suitcase and swollen belly, not knowing where to go. The streets were quiet, the wind cold against her skin. She had no money, no home, and no one, except her cousin Nana. With shaking fingers, she dialed Nana's number. Within an hour, Nana arrived on a motorbike, worry written all over her face. She took one look at Amma's tear-stained face and didn't ask questions. She just held her tight and said, "Let's go home." Nana lived in a tiny one-room space behind kiosk. It was barely big enough for one person, but she made space. They share a mattress on the floor. There was no fan, no fancy furniture, just kindness, warmth, and a roof over Amma's head. The days were hard. Amma barely spoke. She sat for hours, staring at the wall, holding her belly. She felt empty, useless, lost. She had dreamed of sewing baby clothes, of singing lullabies in a peaceful home. Now, she was a burden in someone else's tiny room, 6 months pregnant, abandoned and heartbroken. One morning, Nana took her to the clinic for a checkup. Amma sat in silence as the nurse rubbed cold gel on her belly and moved the machine across it. Then suddenly, thump, 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 thump. The baby's heartbeat filled the room. Amma's eyes widened. The sound was strong, steady, full of life. Something shifted in her chest. It wasn't just noise. It was hope. Her child was still there, still fighting, still choosing life. Tears ran down her cheeks again, but this time they were different. Not just pain, strength. She looked at the nurse and smiled weakly for the first time in weeks. "That's my baby," she whispered. That night, lying beside Nana, Amma couldn't sleep. But this time, it wasn't because of sadness. It was because a quiet fire had started to burn in her again. She remembered who she was, a woman who could sew beauty from scraps, who had once built a life from nothing. Kojo may have broken her heart, but he hadn't broken her will. She was at rock bottom, yes, but she was still breathing. Amma sat on Nana's floor one afternoon, staring at her old sewing machine, rusty, silent, and pushed into the corner like a forgotten dream. Her fingers itched to touch it, but fear held her back. What if she failed again? What if no one cared? But then she looked down at her growing belly and heard the echo of that heartbeat from the clinic. This is not the end, she told herself. She pulled the machine closer, cleaned it, oiled it, and started sewing. Slowly, stitch by stitch. She didn't have much fabric, just scraps Nana had saved, but Amma knew how to make beauty from little. And this time, she wasn't sewing for weddings or parties. She was sewing for women like her. Mothers, survivors, fighters. She designed her first piece, a soft, stylish maternity gown that hugged the belly and made her feel powerful again. Nana saw it and gasped. "Amma, this is beautiful. You need to show people." Amma was shy at first, but Nana helped her take a picture. They posted it on Instagram and TikTok with a simple caption, "Left by my husband while pregnant, but I'm still standing. I made this myself. Hashtag Amma's courage." The post exploded. Comments poured in from women across Ghana and beyond. "This gave me chills. You're so strong. Where can I buy this?" Amma couldn't believe it. One post turned into 10, then 20. She showed more of her work, shared pieces of her story, and slowly, her pain turned into purpose. Orders started coming in, small at first, then more each day. One morning, Amma got a message from a woman who ran a local fashion business. She loved Amma's designs and wanted to meet. When they sat down over wache and tea, the woman looked Amma in the eyes and said, "I believe in you. I want to invest in your brand." Amma's heart nearly burst. They named it Amma's Courage. Within weeks, she had a tiny workshop, a proper sewing table, and even her own tag labels. She was still living in one room, still pregnant, still healing. But now, she had something no one could take from her. Amma was rising, yes, but part of her still carried the weight of betrayal. Not out of bitterness, but because she knew Kojo hadn't just hurt her. He was out there, smiling, lying, pretending, living large while she had slept on floors, cried into pillows, and stitched through her pain. One evening, While organizing her things, Alma found an old envelope, Kojo's forgotten documents. Out of curiosity, she opened it. Bank receipts, fake invoices, loan papers with made-up companies. The more she read, the clearer it became. Kojo had been living off lies. Something in Alma clicked. She started digging. She remembered names he used to mention, business partners, investors, clients. She searched social media, called old neighbors, and even messaged a former coworker of his. Piece by piece, she gathered proof. Kojo had scammed people, borrowed money under fake company names, lied about owning land and shares. But the most shocking discovery? Kojo didn't legally own anything. The villa in Cape Coast? Adwoa's name. The car? Adwoa's. The accounts? All under her. Kojo was a ghost, loud on the outside, invisible on paper. Alma smiled to herself, for the first time not out of joy, but quiet power. She knew what to do next. Through a friend she met online, another single mother who worked in media, Alma leaked everything. Carefully. Names, documents, screenshots. She made sure it reached the right inboxes. Adwoa's rivals in the business world and the government auditors who love cases like this. The story spread fast. Accra buzzed. A well-known influencer reposted the leaks with the caption, "Some men build empires on lies." But the truth always comes home. Alma stayed silent. She didn't gloat. She didn't speak Kojo's name. She focused on sewing, on her baby, on peace. But inside, she watched the flames begin to rise. The same man who once threw her out like trash was about to face a storm he never saw coming. She didn't need revenge. She had justice. And she had truth. Kojo never saw it coming. One by one, his lies started falling apart. The first hit came when Adwoa's business account was frozen. Then the police came knocking about unpaid taxes and fraud investigations. Within days, the villa in Cape Coast was sealed off. Cars, jewelry, and electronics gone. Adwoa was furious. She screamed at Kojo in public, called him useless, a disgrace. She kicked him out, just like he once did to Alma. Now, he was the one with nowhere to go. No friends to call. No roof. No backup. Alma watched from a distance, quietly. Not with joy, but with peace. Justice had done what pain never could. It had spoken loudly, without her ever raising her voice. Her story had gone viral. A TV show invited her to speak, not just about Kojo, but about healing, single motherhood, and building a brand from the ground up. She sat there, glowing in one of her own maternity dresses, her belly full of life, and her voice strong. "I was left with nothing," she said softly. "But I found myself. And that was everything." Women across the country sent messages. Some cried. Some thanked her. Some called her a quiet warrior. Alma smiled through it all. Not for the fame, but for the freedom. Then one day it happened. She was walking out of a small boutique where her clothes were being sold when she saw him, Kojo, standing by the roadside, thinner, unshaved, clothes wrinkled. He looked like a shadow of the man he used to be. He walked toward her, his eyes full of something close to regret. "Alma," he said quietly, "please can we talk?" She looked at him, really looked at him. For the first time, she didn't feel pain or anger. She felt nothing. Alma gave him a soft, calm smile, the kind that says, "I've already healed." She nodded politely and walked right past him. She didn't need to say a word. Kojo had erased himself. And Alma? She was busy writing a new story, one filled with strength, purpose, and the kind of power that doesn't scream. It shines. The day Alma gave birth was a quiet Sunday morning, with soft rain falling outside the hospital window. She held her daughter for the first time, eyes full of tears, heart full of something too deep for words. The baby was tiny but strong, her little fists curled, her breathing steady. Alma looked at her and whispered, "ESI. ESI. Born on a Sunday. A name that meant grace. A gift. A beginning." Holding ESI in her arms, Alma felt everything come full circle. All the nights she cried. All the moments she nearly gave up. All the stitches, the pain, the whispers, none of it broke her. Instead, it shaped her into the woman ESI now called Mama. Her brand, Alma's Courage, kept growing. Orders came in from Nigeria, Côte d'Ivoire, even London. She hired other single mothers to help her sew, women who had also been left behind but carried powerful stories like hers. One afternoon, Amma stood in front of the same house Kojo had once thrown her out of. The door that had slammed in her face now opened with a key in her hand. She bought it, not out of revenge, but redemption. She didn't move in. Instead, she transformed it into something greater, a shelter for single mothers. A place with warm beds, free baby clothes, and a sewing room where women could learn a skill, find hope, and remember they are never alone. Amma hung a simple wooden sign above the door. ESI's home, for every woman starting over. And with her daughter on her hip, Amma smiled. This wasn't just her comeback. It was the beginning of a legacy.